Right, we're live. It is the, I better bring the mic a bit closer to me. It is the Sunday service, and you're welcome to it. We are a little bit early today. It is only 1:30, but I was at the Boards.ie Motors meet today, which is at 12. So I had to get there at 12 and then get back here for 1, so a little bit early. Hi, Ricky. A tiny little bit early to kick it off, but I thought because also I have to go to another thing, so I'm going to finish a little bit early. So I'm starting earlier to finish earlier, sort of. Thank you to everybody who has downloaded this as a podcast. You are glorious. It was amazing to see the numbers come in the last little while. It's an incredible thing. I just passed 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you humbly to everybody who subscribes to the channel. It's absolutely brilliant to have you all aboard. It's a totally different experience when you get that size. I think I don't make a big difference, but it's done something. Ricky's asking when I'm going to be testing new Ford Focus. Might be tomorrow, Ricky. Actually, I think I'm booked into one. I was at the launch with the other day. Massively different specs. I have to say, Ford has done something very weird with the specs on that Ford Focus. Like the entry one, which I think is called Z-Tech, has no parking sensors or reversing cameras or nothing on it at all. And the middle one doesn't have that either. And then you kind of go to titanium one or something to get the other one. It's really weird. Come on, Pat. Yeah, that's true. It's like having your dinner for breakfast to get a good start of the day. It is. I had my dinner at 7 o'clock this morning, so I get a good run this day. But today is it's just a really, really, really busy day. So I've run this through the YouTube system, which YouTube now allow you to go live directly in your browser. Looks identical to every other system that I've used. And it even shows a little meter at the bottom to see how loud you're being or how quiet you're being in general. Am I loud enough? Muted there stupidly. Hopefully it's loud enough, but it works for me so far at this end. But I was at the Boards meeting this morning, Boards.ie Motors, where many years ago I used to post quite regularly, telling people about the channel and the cars I was doing. And then the boards themselves, the management of them, just became very weird back then. And it kind of fell off a cliff, and it's been slowly winding its way down over all the years, but it's still there. Nice to see the boys, some of the same faces turn up there today. A lot of BMWs, 4 BMWs, a couple of a Seat Ibiza Cupra, I think was there. Was that a Cupra? There was a 540i there today, which made a noise like butter. A beautiful sound out of it. Is the Mark II Focus particularly unreliable? Mark II, not particularly. Wasn't as well built as the first Mark I Focus. I mean, wasn't as well put together. But I wouldn't say as unreliable, no. Like as engines goes, no. As reliability of the parts go, a different story entirely. There was some track rod end problems. There was some exhaust problems with water in the exhaust. There's a few little bits and pieces, but it wouldn't be something that would put me off the car necessarily. But it wasn't the most popular Ford Focuses either. Andy McAfee is in the house, and he's actually home and on time today. He's actually ahead of schedule. We're 20 minutes early, but he is here. Finally, Derek Mead says, hi, Bob, your thoughts on a BMW 330e plug-in hybrid, please. Plug-in hybrid is a very specific thing to use. Basically, when you plug, so the difference between it and a normal hybrid car, so normal, as Toyota call it, self-charging hybrids, doesn't sit there just charging on its own. You actually have to move the camera back a little bit. You actually have to plug it in to charge it, right? So you plug in a plug-in hybrid. What happens next is you fill the electric tank, and the car will run on electric for about 50 kilometers. The same applies for 330e or 530e. It makes a difference. You're still going to get about 50 kilometers, maybe a little less out of the range of the electric. If your commute to and from work is 50 kilometers or 40 kilometers or somewhere around there, and you have a charging station at the other end, you may never actually start the engine. Actually, the engine will start after 8 months. If you don't start it, it will start anyway. But they work in that situation. They work when you want a full-size normal car and you want to run as far as you can electricity, and your distance, your range is very short. If your commute is 60, 70 kilometers, you'd nearly be better off with a diesel at that point. You're getting very close to the point where the diesel starts to make sense. Remember, a hybrid car tends to be a little bit heavier than a petrol equivalent, the standard petrol car. But right now they're reducing the size of the petrol tanks in cars to cope with the number of WLTP, because it reduces the weight of the car, so it reduces CO2 emissions, which is why you're getting this 40-litre tank crap going on at the moment. But it's an odd place for people to be at the moment with PHEV, because PHEV is a very narrow, specific field. If your little commute, your way you're going, how you're getting there, if that's around that sort of range, it'll work perfectly for you. It's a great thing. But over that, not really. The 530e video I put up, which is on my channel somewhere, that should give you pretty much a good idea of how far it goes. Congrats on the 30,000 subscribers. It's been brilliant. And those of you that subscribe on podcast, brilliant. Thank you very much. And those of you who were on my live feed from Instagram, yes, I did a live feed on Instagram. Did you know that? It was on Instagram. I am on Instagram. It's at Bob Flavin, if you want to go over there and subscribe there. I am on Twitter as well, if you want to do that too. You can support the channel in all kinds of ways. There's links down below there to support the channel, to get more information. I'm going to do a new Patreon thing as well. I'm going to do new rewards and stuff on Patreon. And try and get that going. Or maybe I'll use Dripster. There's one called Dripster. There's another version of it out there as well. There's a few different ones. I don't know which one's the best one. But I might generate new Patreon rewards whereby you get your own live stream, maybe if you're a Patreon subscriber, or, you know, you get a one-to-one talk. And I did that one already. That works. Here's Eric Rochford has arrived. Afternoon, Eric. Because I love the Mark II, but most people I know who've had them have been way unreliable, unlike the Mark 1 and Mark 3, but Mark 2 has had the best design. Yeah, it depends on your point of view. And look, reliability is very dependent on how the car is treated. You treat a car pretty well, and generally that car will continue working for a very long time without any trouble. The Mark 2 ones tend to be owned by people who were moving from Mark 1 to Mark 2 and treated a little bit harshly and moved out at Mark 3. So chances are Mark 2 got a bit of harsh treatment that would cause it. Generally speaking, most cars that are treated well will last a long time. Ricky Finney says, heading on holiday soon, and I'm renting a new Polo. Looking forward to it. New Polo is lovely, actually. Very nice rental car. I was on holidays earlier this year myself, and I ended up in a new Corsa. And funny enough, I rented it through Ryanair website, but I think it was through a crowd called Thrifty. And it was very top spec. It had cruise control, it had heated seats, it had everything. It was really good. I thought it was a really lovely car. Totally different car to drive in left-hand drive than it is in right-hand drive. Funny enough. Really totally different. When are you buying the new i3, new battery launch for the i3 at Paris 2019, double the 22 kilowatt-hour capacity of the original? Lithium-ion battery in DE has tested a 106 kilowatt pack for the i3, and I'm desperate to see it. Well, there's a story behind that. I was supposed to have the i3 last week, but the way it fell in the week, it didn't work out for me. I just couldn't get back up to get the thing again. And so I ended up in the same car for the whole week. And I had a rally race thing that I did last week in Drogheda as well on a bicycle. And so I tried to rebook it for later on in the year, but it's a bit hard because there's a new battery size coming. Batteries are a problem at the moment. They're hard to get for a start. But secondly, if you want to go further, just put a bigger battery in. That may seem logical, but there's a point where the weight of the battery will outdo the distance is able to give you. So if you want to go 100 kilometers and your battery weighs 100 kgs, if you want to go 200 kilometers, your battery has to weigh 200 kgs. That may seem logical. But at 200 kgs, the drag coefficient on the car doesn't make you get an extra 100 kilometers, gets another 50. Do you follow what I mean? So to improve your range, you've got to maximize the weight. And that's the effort that's going on right now. That's why we're not going that distance. I would hold tough on anything electric at the moment until Audi put out a full announcement. I have it on fairly decent authority that Audi's going after the 600 to 700 kilometer range in what would be a standard A3. I think that's definitely on the way. Now, I'm away with Audi next week myself, but it's for the Q3. I don't think there'll be too much electric talk at that launch. It's more about the Q3 thing, but we'll see. We'll see. We don't know. Maybe there'll be something mentioned there. It's nice to get the one-to-one with some of these guys. I can't talk further about the car. I'm on a non-disclosure agreement about that car at the moment, so I can't talk about it. How important is it to change the brake fluid? It doesn't matter. It's Now, look, if you're up around 10 or 12 years old, you might want to think about changing the brake fluid. It does go off. It has a shelf life. But the brake system is actually a sealed system. So nothing else can enter into the system. The only thing that can happen is a split in a line where the fluid comes out somewhere, which you will know immediately because your brake pedal will just go straight down to the floor. Or you can get air being sucked in through the cap. You know the cap around where the brake fluid is? It can get weathered and it can start to suck in a bit of air as you pump the wheel or pump the pedal. How you'll know that is when you press the pedal, it's very hard. It becomes very stiff and nearly impossible to push down. That's air in the system. If neither of those two things are happening and the brake pedal isn't going any further down, then you shouldn't have a problem. Generally speaking, brake pads will go first, brake shoes on the back if you've got those. They will all wear down quickest, and that makes the travel on the pedal further. So the pad gets thinner and thinner, and the pedal will go down further. Eventually, the car won't stop. It's a good idea when you're changing it's like best practice would be when you're changing the brake pads on the front or the shoes on the back, that you would drain the system out and put in a fresh set of brake fluid. Not necessarily strictly has to be done, but it's best practice to do that. You shouldn't really have to change the brake fluid in the car over a 10 or 12 or even 15-year lifespan. I've seen brake fluid last longer than that. But just remember, if air gets in or if some of it leaks out or you find the brake pedal is traveling much further than it was or it's not traveling at all, then you've got a problem with your brake fluid, generally speaking, or possibly the brake servo, which is the pump inside that pumps the fluid through. So, not a big deal. You don't have to change it, but it's best practice to get to know how to do it and then do it yourself. Toyota's self-charging, I can't say that word, drives me nuts. I know. It's the only way they can explain it, though, in fairness. What they're talking about is not plug-in hybrid, not full electric, self-charging. In other words, while you're driving, it charges itself. It's a way of getting you to say it as well, self-charging hybrid. You get you thinking Toyota, because the only ones that actually say self-charging. I got, this is apple cider vinegar and water. It's very good for you. Drink it before every meal. It just is. I'm on a bit of a detox thing, so my skin looks like shit. But that's okay. We can live with that. See, as anyone's listening on a podcast can't see us anyway. Well on 30,000 subs. Yes, thank you very much. Very humbled by the 30,000. The 30,000 is great. It doesn't really mean that. It's just another number that passes by. I don't do this for numbers. Numbers means that YouTube pay more attention and will put these videos out to more eyeballs, and that does matter. A lot of people use ad blockers anyway, so you don't really make a lot of money because of the ad blockers, because of sheer amount of ads and things. You know, it's a tough place to be, but more numbers means more people get to see what's happening rather than how much more money you make. If you want to support the channel, it's really brilliant. There's a PayPal link down below. There's a Patreon link down below. There's cryptocurrency. Well, I want to do that if you've got any left, if you're still into the cryptocurrency thing. But PayPal is probably the best way. If you click on that and just donate whatever you can, it always is used to keep this channel as free and moving as possible, because car companies don't pay to be here, by the way. Car companies don't give me any advertising whatsoever. Hello, sir. This is AK47 Gamer. Can I know what the content of the stream? The content of the stream is the Sunday service where you come to get your car serviced, or we talk about cars in an open and passionate way where we can talk freely and openly about our emotions to do with cars or to do with anything, whatever you want to do. You can talk about anything you like. You can ask any question you want, and I will endeavor to answer anything I possibly can. But you don't have to be bashful here to ask questions about cars. You don't have to keep your secret love of cars to yourself. Where were we? But yes, you can join in at any time, AK47 Gamer. Column F says Mitsubishi PHEV. FEV. I always say FEV. Even though Mitsubishi, please tell me, don't say FEV. Say PHEV. Anyway, 42 kilometers to work, 38 kilometers on battery, charge and work, 38 kilometers home on battery again. It's ideal. That works perfectly. And that's the way Mitsubishi will tell you that it should be working. After 8 months, the petrol engine will start on its own just to warm itself up, just to make sure all the fluids are still going around, because fluids eventually solidify inside the engine. It's a genius way of using it, because like the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV is a very big car. I mean, a properly big car to drive around. Lovely oak. Driven it down south of France. There is a video on my channel of me driving a few months back. There's one going on the press fleet shortly. I don't know when, but it's going on shortly, and we'll have a spin of that as well and see what that's really like. But it's a really good car, really decent fuel economy. And you never notice whether it's on batteries or petrol or what it's doing, or whether it's charging itself up or not. Like the count just doubled. That's me out of counts. Come on, everyone else. Yeah, click the like button. What's the like button? We're at 38 people watching and 18 likes. So hit that like button in the face, as Jacksepticeye says. Congratulations on a 30k subscription, says Piston Geeks. There we go. Yeah, 30k. We passed it yesterday. I didn't even notice I was getting there. It just I got a little alert thing that popped up the screen going, you reached 30,000 subscribers. Like I say, it's another number. It's passed by. It's brilliant. Let's try and get to 100,000 subscribers. Would be absolutely fabulous. Lots of plans and things to do, but it's really hard to get them all working without spending loads of cash. Everything in the car industry costs money, really does. I have a lovely film coming out. Maybe no one's going to watch it. I don't know. It's going to be on a Volkswagen Beetle. It's a farewell to the Volkswagen Beetle that I've filmed. I got a 1978 Cheers to Shirley and Samantha, two twin sisters who own two Volkswagen Beetles, lent me one. Convertible 1978 4-speed air-cooled, the last of the great Beetles that were out. And so I have that in film. I got a brand new 171 Volkswagen Beetle from Volkswagen Ireland, and I have the footage from the very beginning of the Volkswagen Beetle in Hitler's Germany at the time. And it'll be about between two wars. So Hitler didn't design the Beetle. Hitler wanted a car that the German people could use between the two wars, that they could afford for less than 1,000 marks. He wanted something that could do 7 liters per 100 kilometers and could drive 100 kilometers an hour on a motorway. And Ferdinand Porsche put the design of the Beetle forward first. It wasn't called a Beetle. It was called the FD or FD something or other Mark 1. He put that forward, and Hitler really wanted to be Henry Ford at the time, which is all in the story. It's all there, and I filmed in the very first Beetle ever made outside of Germany. It was made here in Ireland, assembled in Dublin, and I was in the factory and filmed in the factory where that happened. It's not a factory anymore. It's Mercedes Ireland now, but I filmed there as well. So it's a lovely film. But I'll put it up, and the chances are no one's going to watch it. So that's the problem for any YouTuber out there. You do your best work, and no one watches it. It's funny how it works out. But that's just life. That's just the way things are at the moment. So if you can support the channel anyway, the point of that was, if you want to support, just click the links down below there for PayPal and Patreon. Make sure you click the subscribe button. It's the most important part. And if you listen to this in a podcast, sorry, you just listen to me drinking. Anyway, BMW's Samsung prismatic cells are pretty low energy density. Lithium ions, like the big cat, just uses cylindrical cells like Panasonic. Tesla, with more efficient packages, gives 106 kilowatts for 100 grams difference. Now that's a good explanation right there of Michael Burke. Thank you very much, Michael Burke, who has just submitted some money by PayPal. You're most generous, sir. Thank you very much. Explain that to me again. Oh, yeah, okay. So this is the weight. Well, I wasn't using real numbers there when I was talking about the weight. I was just saying that there's a maximum distance you can go to versus how heavy the battery is going to be, which is why we don't have a pile of airplanes flying with running on electric, because currently you can take off in an aircraft heavier than you're able to land. So if your maximum landing capacity is a ton, right, 1,000 kgs, you can take off with 1,500 kgs, because 500 kgs is fuel, and it'll burn off as you're flying along, and then you can land at 1,000 kgs. And the same applies to cars. They get lighter as they get empty. So with batteries, they don't get any lighter. They're always the same weight, well, more or less, within grams when they're empty. Minsk said, I was told that brake fluid needs to be changed out every 2 to 3 years due to condensation getting into the system and causing corrosion. Very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. It's best practice to change it regularly, to change it while you're there. But you don't necessarily have to change it unless something's happening. Really, best practice means you should service your car every 8 to 12 months, right? You should drop the oil. You should change out the air filter every year. You should change out the oil filter at every service. You change the brake pads every 20,000 kilometers. Hardly any of this ever really happens. It's the same with brake fluid. You change them as you kind of need to change them. If things aren't working properly, then you start looking at why they're not working. It's easier to do it that way. Best practice would say, yeah, every maybe 3 to 4 years, I would say, on brake fluid, if even that. But if you're like my car, is 12 years old, I've never changed the brake fluid. There's nothing wrong with the brakes. I just leave it alone. And when I'm changing the brake pads, I just change the brake pads. I don't do anything with the fluid at all. John Carney's just turned up. It's the highlight of the week. The Sunday service is back in town. Well done on 30,000 subscribers. An interesting watch every week. Keep it up, Bob. Thank you very much, John. Good to meet you this morning. We're at the boards meeting together, which is really cool. Hello, Bob, says Cormac Hannon. Hello, Cormac Hannon. Rotating tires. Is this still a thing? God, yeah, it is. Don't forget it now. Remember my father religiously rotating the tires on his Hillman Hunter and his 504. 504. What a gorgeous car, 504. Should we still be doing this, and how often? So tire rotate. The reason you rotate tires, well, what is rotation? First of all, you put the front on the back and the back on the front and so on, right? So what you do is reverse where the tires are. So the driver's side tires, you put the front there on the back and you put the back on the front. So why would you do that? Tires don't wear evenly. So the front tires wear generally faster than the back tires, depending on how you do it, right? If you're driving an M3, you might go through more back tires than front tires. If you're driving a Audi S3, you'll go through more front tires than back tires. The majority of people drive a front-wheel drive car. So the front tires wear out quicker because they both have to do power and steering. So between the two, you find that those two things wear the front tires out faster. So what you do is you put on a set of new tires, 4 new tires, about halfway through their life. So in 6 months' time, you jack up the car, you take out the front wheel, you put on the back, and you put the back wheel on the front wheel, and then you even out the wear of the 4 tires over the life of the tires. You can still do it 100% of the time if you want. Best practice means you've extended the life of the tires maybe by a year or more, maybe even more than that, depending on how you use them. And when you come to change your tires next time, you change the fronts first, which were the backs, and so on, and just keep on rotating. So you keep on trucking along through it, and it works out nicely if you are pedantic about it and actually want to do that sort of thing. A lot of tire places will actually do it for you. A lot of tire places, when you're replacing the 2 front tires, he'll put the back on the front and the front on the back, so on, when they're changing it. Again, that's kind of best practice stuff. So yes, as best practice, you should definitely rotate your tires. It's something American TV talked about for a long time. But actually, it was happening. Clever people were doing it all the time, especially with old radial tires and all. Really good. Wow, +1 on a 30K. Congrats, Big B. No problem at all, Andy. Delighted to have you here as one of the subscribers. It's been a brilliant years getting this far. So don't think you can start a YouTube channel tomorrow and get like 30,000 subscribers. It's pretty hard to get 30,000 subscribers. It's been easier to get from 20 to 30 than it was to get from 0 to 10. I'll put it that way, right? I don't remember 10 to 20. Don't remember that at all. I barely remember turning over 20. 30 has been a long struggle. I'm always hoping that when I cross another milestone that it gets easier. I don't think it does. I think it actually gets harder. But anyway, who knows? What do you think of Scotty Kelmer's opinion of European vehicles? I didn't read Scotty Kelmer's opinion of European vehicles. So who's Scotty Kelmer? Should I know this person? Pretend you're me for a moment, trying to decide what to have for dinner today and not a vegetable killer, roast chicken or beef stew. I would go with roast chicken. A lovely roast chicken with a bit of butter over the skin to help the browning process, under a little bit of tin foil. Try and keep the tin foil off the top of the chicken a little bit and cook it all the way through. So what I mean is don't wrap it down over the top of the chicken because it actually makes it burn. Lift it off, slightly up off it. Give it a little baste here and there. A bit of stuffing and all the trimmings, a bit of roast potatoes in at the last few minutes with some goose fat, and you've got an absolutely delicious roast dinner. And I would have it with you, minus the chicken. But yes, I know how to cook all these things. It's fine. Just because I'm a vegetarian doesn't mean I don't appreciate a good roast chicken. I don't like beef anymore, though. I wouldn't touch beef. John Bitt says, went to a few European motor shows, Paris a few years ago. Many new models emerging. think now it's a waste of time, as much uniformity in models and development. There is a lot of sharing parts as well. A lot of places continually just kind of put parts out. A lot of parts are developed here in Ireland. Some parts are developed overseas. Electronic stuff is all kind of universal. Everybody puts them out at different speeds, but they all go out eventually. So there is an element of homogenization, I would call it, where everybody is shouting about their latest tech, but actually it's 5-year-old tech. I was at the press conference for Ford the other day. They were talking about the Ford Connect system, which has a couple of novel tweaks in it, but largely it's the same system we've had in pretty much every other brand of car out there. The self-driving, the kind of, the one that assists you, the active cruise control, it's been around for 5 to 7 years now. It's these things aren't new because they're not made by the car company themselves. The only thing the car companies make these days is the physical, mechanical bits of the car. And even them, most of that stuff is made by someone else as well. So car shows are good crack. I like to go to meet people. I like to go to talk, unless you're going to go talk to a designer directly. Most times the car shows are better off to sit at home, watch the live stream of it if you really want to see it, because you get more information. You get closer to the bloody car as well. It's not like a bun fight. You stand there with the local influencer with his hair all floppy to one side going, look at this car, it's so cool. And you're trying to do a bleeding report. You want shut up, like. Cross 13 has been absolutely massively generous, donating €10 on the super chats. I forgot about super chat. I never think of that bleeding thing. Super chat is there as well if anyone else wants to donate things. Thank you very much. It says European launch of the Kia Niro EV, 500 kilometers WLTP at Paris as well. New Soul EV due soon. Yeah, but that's not a bad car actually. Going EV only in Europe, no combustion options. I think because of WLTP, I think everything will eventually go hybrid or electric, or some variation on a theme, but similar sort of show, because WLTP has absolutely torpedoed the price of cars. Within the next 2 years, cars are going to be up to 20-25% more expensive than they are today, without a shadow of a doubt. It kind of has to be, because WLTP has driven up the price of everything. That can't be allowed, but if you take the cars today and fast forward in 2 years' time, that's where you're going to be. Right now, they're just deferring the rise of price of WLTP cars. It's kind of deferring. So they're calculating the WLTP and then recalculating back in the old system. And it works. But I'm not too sure where it's going to end. Right now, I see people running away from cars rather than towards cars. They're kind of looking at cars being a huge expense that they don't need anymore. And like I talked to a group, I do public speaking. So I turn up to events and people ask me to come along and give talks about various things. And I was talking to a group the other day, these kind of 15 to 20-year-olds, and not one of them had an interest really in owning a car. They liked cars, just had no interest in owning one. Just seemed like a massive expense they didn't need. And funny enough, all these people lived in Dublin, and they're all from Dublin, and none of them really had an interest, because why would you have a car in Dublin city centre? What's the point? Not that anyone lives in Dublin city centre, right? Anyway, Andy says, cheers, Bob. Chicken it is. There you see, chicken, that's the way to go. Cooking it won't be a problem at this late hour. Asda are cooking it for me right now. I think, oh my God, don't get Asda, do it. Go and get a good free-range chicken. Put it in the oven. Have it done in an hour and a half. It'll be done in the oven, especially chicken. It's only turkey that requires 4 or 5 hours of stuff. Put the heat down to about 180 degrees into the oven. And just let it baste in its own stuff and forget about it. Put your potatoes on in an hour and a half. You'd have it there for dinner. No problem. You don't need Asda to do it for you. That'll be rubbish chicken. It'll be like rubber, comparatively speaking. Mercedes EQC will be here too. Disappointing efficiency. PHEV 508 and DS7 launching too. Cormac Cannon is a very generous person. Thank you very much, Cormac Cannon, who has sent some money by PayPal. You're very, very good. Thank you. So kind. You are all so kind. You're brilliant. You do genuinely make a massive difference to the channel when you do that. You make a massive difference to the channel. It continues to keep it free and continues allowing me to be able to make a video like this Volkswagen Golf Beetle hybrid Hitler video that I'm making currently right now. It allows that to happen. That's what really goes on at the moment. Anyway, back to Cross. Sorry, Cross. Mercedes EQC will be there too. Disappointing efficiency. PHEV 508 and DS7 launching too. I'm really anxious to see the PHEV 508. The 508 is one of my favorite looking cars this year. Really is gorgeous. Inside and out is just an outstandingly good-looking vehicle. I'm really interested to see where Peugeot go with this. And Peugeot, whatever you want to call it, really need to knuckle down and do something different than they're doing right now. Really, really, really. Like if they put the gas on right now, they would just accelerate away from the rest of the brands out there. They bought Opel. They have their tech. They took the good parts. They've got really cutting edge but useful designs, and the 508 shines an effort on that. The Rifter's another one as well. Really intelligent design has been used right there. They just need to capitalize on it. I don't know whether they will or not is the problem. I'd love to see them do something with it. Mercedes EQC, yes, disappointing efficiency. You're right, yeah. Mercedes aren't ready for it yet. I don't think they're not quite there. They're more interested in their AMGs and V8s and stuff. You know, the A-Class only came about because they needed to offset their emissions from the V8s that they were putting out and the V10s and V12s they were putting in. Citroën, well, they seem to have kind of lost their way a little bit. They're a little bit too much in the design end of things. They need to kind of calm down on design. They'll probably sell more cars, but then it's all part of that group that Peugeot, Citroën, Opel in the middle of the group as well now. So I suppose it's hard to kind of figure out where they're all gonna land. I'd like to see the Peugeot 508 really do well if they get it right. Of course, obviously, if the efficiency's there, it's always good. Derek Meads, welcome. Electronic or manual handbrake, Bob? What's your preference? I don't mind electronic handbrakes, to be honest with you. I've no interest in doing handbrake turns, so you don't really need to pull one. If it's there. The problem with manual handbrakes. Okay, so the benefit of a manual handbrake, number one, is that you can fix it, right? If you break the cable or something happens to brakes, you can actually fix a manual one fairly lively. Like it wouldn't take too long to put a new handbrake cable in. Especially if it's an underfloor one that actually comes from the handbrake down under the carpet and goes back that way. If it goes down to the bottom of the car and out to the bottom, it's just as easy to fix. You just track it back. But the electronic handbrake, some of them replace the mechanical part of it. Other ones are actually electronic, so they come on when you stop the car. I love them on hills. You know, when you're doing a hill start, you think, God, it's a hill start pretty steep, and then you take your foot off the brake and you realize the car's holding you there. It's quite nice. So I don't really have a difference between the two. If you're into fixing cars, I prefer a manual handbrake. The downside of a manual handbrake is when you pull it on very tight, if someone gets in the car, if someone else drives the car besides you, it can be awful hard to get that handbrake back off again. So that could be the only downside of the whole thing. But usually you can adjust it and make all sorts of things. So, you know, it's a personal preference thing, I think, more than, you know, whether someone wants or not. I would prefer the electronic handbrake just because I'm a lazy fecker and I prefer just the thing to do the handbrake on its own. Cormac Cannon, looking to buy an estate for under 10 grand. Thinking about a Mercedes C or E-Class. What do you think you should look at? Other estates, preferences for automatic. Okay, if you're looking at that end of the market, so if you're looking at Mercedes, you're looking at Audi, you're looking at BMW, you're looking at only go automatic. Don't go for the manuals because they're manual cars. Their manual gearbox is bought in and is not very good, right? It really isn't. It's very long throw and it doesn't suit the car, and they just kind of plonk it in the middle as well. It doesn't really work the way you think it's going to work if you're looking at that. Estate cars. So you have, for 10 grand, you have the choice. If you're looking at Mercedes C-Class or E-Class, I would go E-Class, but you're going to have to go back a couple of years. C-Class is good, but a little bit compromised on the space in the back door. It's not as cubic as it should be. If you really want a choice, look for Skoda Superb. If you're not a badge snob, you're not into the sort of badge thing. BMW 5 Series Estate is absolutely lovely. I love the flip-up window if it was spec'd on the car. The little window you kind of drop in stuff in the back. It's quite cool. That's quite neat. And Audi make, of course, the Avant versions of their A6 and A4. A4 is the most practical of the two. A6 is outstandingly gorgeous. From a looks perspective, an A6 S-Line, I know it's going to be hard to find for 10 grand, but you will find it out there, right? But only go automatic in that end of the market. The rest of them, you know, if you start looking out for things like the Skoda Superb, or you look for anything in those kind of range where you're actually going to get more room, probably more kit, but you're going to end up in a Volkswagen Group car, and that's kind of the only choices you have there. What does that say? I'm 9:10 to 14:10 in Dublin. What are you up to then? What's that mean? Is that October? Is that the 9th of the 10th to the 14th of the 10th in Dublin? What am I up to? couldn't tell you if that's October you're talking about. It's too far away to know what I'm going to be doing. But I only plan like a week ahead. It's only possible to do that. Andy McAfee says, on the subject of cooking a chicken, as the extra large, extra tasty chicken is actually really good. That rotisserie flavor making me hungry now. I would prefer, well, my own preference would be a lovely free-range chicken roasted in the oven. But, you know, that would be my previous favorite, of course. I am vegetarian now. I don't eat chicken no more. Unless you count the other day where I was we'd cycle for 145 kilometers or something, and I hadn't had anything to eat. Then I had a chicken curry because I was just rocking out hungry. There's nothing else there to eat, so I ate that. James O'Connell. Hi, Bob. He says, hi, James. How are you doing, man? Welcome to Sunday service. It is supportable downstairs. If anybody really wants to, just look down at the bottom of this video. Underneath that, make sure you're subscribed. At the very least, subscribe to the channel, right? That's the very minimum around here, because we just passed 30,000 subscribers, and I'd love to make 40,000 subscribers by Christmas. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That'd be a lovely Christmas present. 40,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers in 3 or 4 months, whatever it is. That'd be lovely. Unlikely, but lovely. JP Devil says, manual spoils big Audi, BMW, Mercedes. It certainly does. Any of them. If you come to Audi A3 or BMW 3 Series or the Mercedes C-Class, you can kind of get away with the manual. Just kind of. Because that's like the cheap bargain bucket version of those kind of luxury cars. But generally speaking, it's best advice for you. I promise you, just buy the automatic ones. They work, right? And they're not that expensive to fix. Automatic, the old adage of an automatic being very expensive to fix, you change the whole gearbox. You kind of have to do it with a manual as well. It's really hard to change one gear in a manual. Rare to go. Automatics, yeah, you can lose a gearbox. That's fine, but you just change the gearbox. The same thing as a manual car. It's not that much harder to change the gearbox on a manual than it is an automatic. Vice versa. They're both about the same. Jared Hewitt has turned up, and I know Jared very well. You should check out his, he does stuff for CompuB, and he does this really, 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 really big screen that I was on for a show up in Dublin, which was really good. Anyway, 2015 BMW i3 with range extender for under 20k, worth buying if 90% of journeys will be within M50 ring. Range extender was actually a really expensive option when it came out first, and on top of $5,000, it's a motorbike engine in the boot, which you can hear come on. It sounds like a little Vespa behind you when it's on. If you can get that for $20,000 in 2015, yeah, you'd be okay with that, and it will work perfectly over the range. i3 has quite a short range, will be the thing, when it's under pressure, so you're going to have to learn to adapt to drive it in a different way. Range extender is going to save your ass the whole time, which is a great part of the range extender. I had one here way back 3-4 years ago, probably 2015 actually, when I had it on press test, and I drove from here in Portlaoise to Dublin to the Indo offices on the batteries alone. The range extender only came on for the last like 5k or something, and the range extender only just charges up the battery. Doesn't really do a whole lot. It's very good though. Answer to that, Cross 13 says he has 160,000 kilometers on the 2015 i3 REX. They're basically bulletproof. Yeah, there's not much to go wrong. I love the way they're made. They're made from recycled donkey jackets and things. I just love the whole making system. It's pretty good. Definitely worth a look without a shadow of a doubt. You can find one for $20,000. You're going to be buying into the right kind of car. Once you have a charging unit at home and a charging unit at work, you're going to have to put a charging unit down into that. The back end of that office that you work in, but yeah, you'll be there, all right. Kieran D says, hey, good afternoon, Bob. Heard any budget 2019 rumors, EVs, diesels, etc. is not far off. Now, not official rumors, but I would be fairly certain what they're going to do is not move the tax bands, but open the tax band up a bit. So it's equivalent of moving it. So what I would predict is that the A2 tax band will start to pull in people from A1, and they'll be moved into A2. So there'll be a slight opening of it's a bit like opening the tax band, making the tax band wider on personal tax that you pay as well. I would say that's probably what they're going to do. Now, What everybody wants right now is the status quo. What everybody wants is just leave it alone. Don't make any tax changes. Don't do anything stupid, because we're in WLTP territory and things are going to go a little bit weird. I don't think they're going to do much to the cars because right now they're making an absolute fortune from cars. But I wouldn't expect any benefits either. I wouldn't expect any changes that's going to benefit you. It will at least stay the same, or they'll slightly move the tax bands that allow a couple of more cars on either side of tax band A1 or B1 or B2 or somewhere in there, that they'll just move it around. They may even invent an A3 or a B1 or a B3 or something. You know, they might invent something else, but they'll be playing with the tax bands to try and make more money that way. Stuart Derry, welcome Stuart. Never seen your name before, so you must be new here. Make sure you click the subscribe button. Hi Bob, what is the Opel Vauxhall GTC like, petrol or diesel with an auto? Vauxhall, Opel Vauxhall automatic gearbox would not be my favorite. I prefer their manuals for a start. But if you can get one, great. If you're lazy like me and you just want to get through traffic and you don't care what kind of an automatic it is, then it's fine. The automatic will be harder, much harder on fuel than in the manual version of that car. GTC is actually gorgeous to look at. There's a lady here nearby that owns a red one. Absolutely lovely looking car, really nice. Bit tight, get in the back seat, a bit high on the boot level, and the step down into the boot is a bit high as well. But it'll be fine car to drive. Diesel and petrol are both reliable when it comes to the Opel cars, Vauxhall Opel cars. I like, but now compromise GTC 3-door, you know, there's a bit of to and fro whether you want a 3-door, you want a 5-door. I prefer 5 doors anyway, but I prefer the look of a 3-door. I like the look of a 3-door, practicality 5-door. No problem with that at all, but I wouldn't go the auto. I'd go manual on the GTC, plus it's a fun thing to drive that way. One thing is, if you have the REX, which is range extender from BMW REX, you don't have the option of upgrading the battery via BMW because of the approval issues. That's true. No doubt of that. Good to know. Looks like very good value in low mileage models. VRT is next to nothing too. That's true. That's still the i3. We're still waiting on a review of your own Leon. I know my own Leon just works though. All this little workhorse of a thing. I've always got a new car to review. So I will start. I've been asked a few times now since I was up Instagramming my adventures in a 1978 Beetle the other day. I was asked quite a lot to go and do more classic cars, do more stuff. I'm currently in negotiations to review a DeLorean, which is another thing, to tell the history of DeLorean and then review a current model. Not current model, but you know, a DeLorean, an unmolested one, and not Back to the Future one. I can get a Back to the Future one. Well, I don't know if I can get one, but I can probably lay my hands on one. Some of the lads in Cannonball have a Back to the Future one, so I could get one of them, but I prefer to get an unmolested one, the one that came out of the factory in Northern Ireland. You could invent the International Veg Out Day, where you can have a midnight to midnight day of meat back in your life. I'd hijack Christmas Day. Yes, any news in the Up GTI? Up GTI is not coming, lads. I have the dangerous news. Because of WLTP, the Up GTI would not be economically sound to be sold in Ireland. So right now it's completely paused. Not gone, just paused until they figure out how they're going to get it and get it running properly. So we'll see if we can still get a GTI up here. We'll see what's going to happen in the future as well. WLTP will have to be sorted out because there's a lot of models like, you know, John Cooper Works Minis not coming either. There's a lot of stuff that's not coming to Ireland now because of WLTP. So, but GTI is one of them for sure. But the Veg Out Day, I quite had that. Well, I suppose if you're a vegetarian, you're like a wishy-washy vegan. You know, you're kind of half between the two. You take gravy on your chips, you know, which is made from a meat product, but you don't want to eat meat. So there's a bit of a thing that goes between the two. I was in IKEA yesterday and got charged a phenomenally big amount of money for 4 bleeding vegetarian meatballs, little tiny meatball thing, and some potato, and they charged $2.50 for that. What's going on? That place is a gold mine up there, and they can afford to charge less. John Carney says, do you see a big move from TV as we know it to special interest YouTube channels in the future? I personally know a number of people who have never watched television programs. They only watch YouTube. They're not even subscribers on Netflix. You know, they're kind of a streamer type person. They prefer to sort of stream everything out of it or pirate everything. It's happening as well. So there is an element of people moving and wanting a very specialist interest, one topic, one direct topic, and they don't want to deal with anything else. I tell you, a good example of that would be someone like Global Cycling Network, GCN, on YouTube. Now, they were funded by YouTube up front to begin with, so they had a big head start on everybody else. But you look, they only deal with cycling. Now, they're running out of content lately. They're running out of ideas lately. So it's running aground, but it's hard to get there. But people who are trying to get, people are sick of television. They're kind of sick of it because these inflated stars get a gigantic, look at Ryan Tuberty and all these kind of guys that get a giant amount of money. And all they do is show up and do a couple of hours a week, and people just give out about them. So there's an element of that. That can't happen on YouTube, because YouTube, you don't get a giant amount of money in YouTube. And if you're not good enough, people don't watch you. That's all. That's it. You just never get to the point of having enough viewers. I see a lot of Irish YouTubers who refuse point blank to get up off their arse and do something and actually move forward and move their channel forward and collaborate with people around them and try and get their interest up, and yet they just call themselves YouTubers all the time. It's a waste of time. But I do think that as we move forward now, there will be a place for both television and a place for both YouTube. And I think some people look at Casey Neistat's sweeping statement where he says the destination has never been television. You know, and fair play, he's really very rarely been on television. That's how it works, right? It does it that way. Gary Vaynerchuk would be another guy, TV, not interested, just interested in social media. That's an American thing. That is spreading worldwide as people lose interest in what television delivers, because television delivers them nothing of interest that they're interested in. Whereas you can go on YouTube and find out how to fix your oven, or how to mow your grass, or how to repair your car, and you can find the guy who's looking at your car, your actual car, your real thing, and you can meet them and see them. Like this morning, I was at the Boards meet, and I met all these lovely guys, and you know, out of nowhere, and these guys are just brilliant. Thank you very much. That's a private donation, but thank you very much for the donation on PayPal. You can donate down below if you wish to. Where was I there? Mo Carey says I'm late. It's always one. It's always one. Actually, you're not late. What time is it? 20 past 4. No, you're all right. We started at 1:30, so it's fine. We started early. We started without you. Sorry, Mo, we couldn't wait. What do you think of Hyundai? It's not my taste. Hyundai as a company? They're a big global company. They make a lot of stuff. They do a lot of heavy industry stuff that you don't even hear about over here. There's a lot, they do a lot of trucks and JCBs, diggers, and, you know, huge earth moving machinery and things. A lot of stuff is done by Hyundai. That's actually where they get all their money from. Car sales are a relatively new thing for them. They've only been doing it for maybe 30, 40 years, you know, and cars have never been a big deal over here. They used to have the Hyundai Pony when I started in the car industry first, a long time ago. Now, piece of crap that was. But now they make really good cars. A lot of their cars are actually very, very nice, really handsome. They've hired in a lot of European designers. Peter Schreier's in there as well. He does Kia. Hyundai is the MD now. He'd be a very European designer, which is why those cars are very cutting edge designed at this stage. So I like them. They're not brilliant to drive, but then, you know, the i30N is a great car to drive. So they get it right and sometimes get it wrong. What do you think of used Fiat Punto? Last thing I heard about a Punto was it failed. All the NCAP rating got 0 stars. So from a safety perspective, I would be very suspect of that. But besides that, the Punto has always been actually pretty good. If you can get an old classic Punto Sporting from the late 80s, mid 90s. If you go into mid 90s, you're kind of going to get a good one there. Buy it in yellow, put it in the garage, leave it there till it starts to rot, and then sell it and you make a fortune. But currently, the current model Punto, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It drives like crap. It's a rental car. It was never designed really to be a popular car. They did it on purpose. Eric Rocher says, roll on 40K. Hopefully you'll get there soon as you work hard enough for it. Getting more difficult though with all of the content out there and the way that YouTube works. It's the way that YouTube works rather than the content. The content has always been there. There's always been a giant amount of content on YouTube, a huge amount. It's more the way YouTube presents the content. It's more the way that YouTube, if you click on a video about cycling and then you go back to your recommended list and it's just like a wall of cycling stuff, nothing else. Just because you watched one video about it, they just want you to watch more videos, more time. They don't really care what channel you're watching, as long as you're watching more videos. So really the problem is trying to keep people. So people come because they want to know about a BMW 3 Series. They watch the 3 Series video and they go, that was great. I know all I need to know about 3 Series. And then they go away. They're not encouraged to subscribe or to do anything else. So getting subscribers as a car channel is actually quite difficult unless you're willing to spend a lot of money. And I mean a lot of money. Much the same way as someone like Car Throttle has, or someone like that, where they've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort. Even they're running aground at this stage. They're kind of lampooning the whole thing and trying to make it funny all the time. It's always about being funny. They can't ever go the direction of taking a serious review on stuff. So, you know, you don't go to Car Throttle to find out what they think of the latest version of a 5 Series. You don't. You go somewhere else. Or you go the whole serious route, like What Car, someone where they're very serious. And Rebecca Jackson does a lot of stuff there. I know Rebecca. She does TV things. You go to the freelancers and you try and get someone like Alex Goy. And this is all from the UK. But if you're not from the UK, then where do you go? You start looking around. It gets harder and harder and harder. So I'm an in-betweenie. I've got a small population of Ireland, 4.5, nearly 5 million people. I've had 16.7 million views on the channel, which puts me viewership-wise as one of the biggest channels in Ireland, if not one of the biggest channels in Europe, actually, by view. By subscribers is a different story. Getting someone to subscribe is a different story. You know, it's people watch one video, then they don't want to watch any more videos from that one user because they bought the car. That's it. They're not going to look at any more videos. They're not interested in the differences between a Seat Leon Coupe and a 3 Series. So it's hard to get that way. But yes, 40K would be lovely. 40,000 subscribers. We just passed 30,000 subscribers is gone. I'd love to see 40,000 subscribers by this Christmas. Would be perfect, but maybe not. Who knows? I was talking to Sinead McCann about it the other day as well. She'd like to reach 10,000 subscribers. So it's on the way. It's hard. It's hard work. Even Sinead now has a person helping her with the videos. I still do all this on my own. All of this, the videos, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, everything. Everything is just me. All of my lonesome. And that's hard to motivate yourself every day to do that. I'm one of those streamers. I still have a TV license for 20 minutes a year to actually watch. So I have a bleeding TV license. I've had it for years. I don't even watch RT1, 2. I really don't. There's not much content on RT1, RT2 that I really consume in a large way. Most of it's imported content. Almost all of it, actually. I don't watch a lot of the homegrown stuff. There's the odd program that comes up that's funded by the BAI or something that I watch because it's on RTE. But we watch a lot of UK television still, and I don't pay a TV license there. It just comes in because I have a Vodafone box. I can't remember who I have now. Vodafone, I think now. And other point are Now TV and Amazon Prime Video, but YouTube is in first place. YouTube is still free technically. You can pay a subscription system, and I know I make money from people watching the subscription system, which cancels ads. And it is happening slowly. YouTube is turning into Netflix. YouTube want small creators like me off this channel. They want people like, they don't even want Casey Neistat. They don't want those guys either, because even they are not controllable. They are not funded by YouTube, so they can't really be controlled properly. You know, they want people they can control, like what do you call that actor from America who just started his YouTube channel there last year? Will Smith. They want him because they can control him. You know, they can pay him money and that he does what he's told. Whereas a lot of us don't want to do what we're told. So, in fairness, if they paid me enough money, I'd do what I'm told as well. Richard O'Brien says, agree on a GCN, well running dry, in fairness. It is, isn't it, Richard? I found it a few months back. I think I found it back in January or February or something. And I started to consume their videos at a rate of knots, one after the other after the other. I mean, like binge watch them. And I only realized now that it was actually the dynamic between Matt and another presenter guy. He's still there, but Matt is gone. Matt left and went to Eurosport, and it was actually there. It was those persons that I was consuming rather than the actual channel. And now I see it's very, they're resurrecting the same, how to wash your bike, how to look after your derailleur, how to take apart your derailleur. It's the same old stuff just being regurgitated the whole time, but it's lost the humor. It's lost the fun that I think Matt, who's now in Eurosport, brought to it. So it is kind of running dry. Yeah, Richard, you're dead right. Mo Kerry, is the Republic of Ireland a safe place for children to be raised? Yes. We live, and I know if you're an Irish person, you're going to give out to me about this, and you're going to think you live in the most, if you watch Facebook, you think you live in the most dangerous country in the world. We live in one of the most safest countries in Europe, one of the safest countries in the world. There is nothing like how safe you can be in Ireland. If you know, obviously, if you go into a place where trouble is, you're going to find trouble, right? If you go out on a Saturday night at 3 o'clock in the morning up a town where a nightclub has been let down, you're probably going to see something there. But 99.9% of the time, my kids can play outside the door here, no problem. I don't need to be standing out there with them the whole time. I bring the kids to school every day. You know, they cross the road, they do the stuff. You know, they're young and they can do it. We live in an insanely safe time, a time where we've never had so much of a safety thing going on the whole time, and yet people still continually give out about it. So, yes, it is very, very safe in Ireland, for sure. Richard Bryce says, the original lads are either gone. Matt C, Hardy on Dan and Simon. Simon, that was the guy, yeah. The relationship between Matt and Simon was very watchable on the screen. Simon is still there. Dan is still there. But Dan was always the kind of motivator to the whole thing. And Matt was the funny one. Matt made me laugh more than anyone because it's totally cheeserama. Like something from Saturday morning television. Tiz was, you know, years ago. It was like something like that, watching that. Now it seems the newer videos now seem to be much more techie, and lads are trying to be funny. They're trying, though. They're writing it funny, and it's not coming across properly. For those who just joined us, that is apple cider vinegar in water. It is very, very good for your gut. Older guys, I was going to create. A fella asked me the other day to create a channel about being fit, how to be fit, how to get fit when you're over 40. Because I'm ancient. I'm like nearly 50. I've surprised the crap out of a guy telling him that I was cycling along doing 140 kilometers. And I just did 61 kilometers an hour on the bike and flying on the hill. And the guy goes up and he goes, God, I'm 32 or he's 33 or something. And he says, you're fit. You must be very close to my age. I'm 46. No, I'm like 10 years older than you. And I only started getting fit like 3 years ago. So it's totally possible. John Bitt says, Bob, do garages or car brands have any reason financially to continue to promote diesel when it appears we should be moving away from diesel to petrol? Yes. Number one, they've got an absolute jockload of diesel engines hanging about in factories that they need to sell. But two, diesel isn't quite as dead as people think it is. Its public perception of diesel has changed. People realize that diesel is not as clean as they thought it was because it puts out NOx and it puts out other emissions and other particles into the air that are much more dangerous than CO2. CO2 is carbon dioxide. Of course, it's put out by you breathing out. You breathe in oxygen, you can breathe out, and carbon dioxide comes out. Cows put it out when they fart the whole time or when they breathe as well. Cows and sheep and cattle agriculture produce a large amount of CO2, actually way more CO2 than the car industry does. But CO2 is a gas that rises. It creates weather changes. It creates a hothouse environment for the world. So it clouds over and it's very hard to deal with. We are finding ways to deal with. Things are cleaning up. Right now, a diesel car, a brand new diesel car outside the door, you can stand behind it, you can't even smell the thing running anymore. It's so clean. But NOx is still coming out and other particles as well. Petrol is not quite the same. But diesel, I still think, has a bit of a future. It's a different future, but I think it's got a future. And I think leading that future is going to be the Volkswagen Group, particularly Audi. I think they're going to do stuff there. I think we're going to see more hybrid diesels coming. I think diesel will continue to grow, but at a slower rate. We need to go away from having 99% of our market. Right now, still our market is 92% diesel. So we need to move away from that. We need to come down closer to 60% or 50% of the market being diesel and the rest of it made up of a mix. The problem is we're moving towards petrol, which is higher CO2 than diesel. So CO2 emissions are rising, and Ireland this year is going to miss the CO2 emissions targets by quite a long way. And that's because of the rise of petrol in the market and a number of other reasons. But mostly that, because garages still have them in stock on. People still want diesel. And to be honest with you, I would get away with an electric car as our second car here. But like yesterday, we drove up to IKEA and then went out to Bull Island and drove around. And An electric car couldn't have done that. It just couldn't have. I parked in places there were no charge points where I parked yesterday. So it's just not possible for an electric car to do what I did yesterday in a diesel. And it was a fairly standard family day out. Still requires a lot of planning with electric. Plus, half the electric bloody charge point don't work when you get there. Not pointing any fingers at you, ESB, or anything, you know, like, hello. Any thoughts on the Volkswagen Up? One of my favorite cars, Volkswagen Up, Skoda Citigo, say it me, they're all the same car underneath. Skoda Citigo has slightly better spec than the Volkswagen Up. Really good cars if you can get over the back windows not opening. They don't open, they push out, those little push out dogs. But they're lovely, lovely car to drive. Buy it in a standard 1 litre, whatever it is, 70 horsepower, something it is. 5-speed box. Put in air conditioning. Don't put in the sat nav or anything like that. Don't bother with it. Just put it in Bluetooth and leave it at that. You have a great little car for years, as long as you don't want to carry a lot of things in the boot. It's not a big. It's a deep boot. It's not a wide boot. I didn't shag sheep. Says. Do you say? You say that, Bob? But I. Hold on. Let's start that again. Let's start that again. You say that, Bob. But have you really been far, even has decided to use or even want to go look more like? I don't know what that's in relation to. So you need to, it's very hard when someone asks a question, then asks a question again in 5 or 6 minutes time, because I've forgotten what the first question was. So can you ask that question again in a way that makes sense? Anyway, Josh Delaney says, do you like the Volvo V40? Looks old now, doesn't it? When it came out first, it looked really good. I think it looks a little bit dated. I think it dated very badly compared to the rest of the Volkswagen or Volvo range. S90 looks good, not bad to drive. It's in the right direction. V60 or sorry, XC60 is the best car that Volvo made for years, and the XC40 is the best car Volvo made for years. The V40 has always been a bit meh. It's kind of there, but it's not quite there either. But nice car. They're okay to drive. Buy it in automatic and diesel, and don't worry about the rest of it. They don't make diesel engines anymore, by the way. I find it hard to find a diesel one, but you can get the petrol one just as good. Eric Crosser says, I wasn't keen on the electric handbrake, but think it's great now, especially combined with DSG. It's brilliant, man. For the lazy dude like me, I could fall asleep here on this live stream, just like doze off. I'm the ultimate of I have to motivate myself the whole time to do everything. But so when it comes to driving, I keep, I get a manual car. So somebody gives me a manual car for a week to go, oh, to drive a manual, phone someone else up to get an automatic on them. Because I just, you sit in the traffic, go left leg up and first, second. You wish you just had an automatic. Automatics are just easier in all respects. And when you get to a point where you pull up outside the door and you just turn the car off and it puts on the handbrake, it takes itself out of gear, it hangs, it's brilliant. Like, God almighty, what was anyone thinking of doing driving a manual? Who is your favorite YouTuber channel overall? Oh, missed that. I missed you in there. Who's your favorite YouTuber channel overall, genre-wide? I don't watch that many car reviews. A lot of you might think that I do spend all my time. The worst part is if I watch a car review from someone else, I get influenced by that review, especially if I haven't reviewed the car myself. If I've reviewed the car myself, then I already know what the car is like, and I don't care what someone else thinks of the car. It's what I think of the car matters. It's irrelevant after that. So I don't watch that many car reviews. I watch it here and there. I watch a few. I'll catch up on Sinead McCann, see what she's doing, what she's reviewing, how she's getting on with things. Not quite the same anymore now. She's got someone doing the videos for her. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. He's a lovely guy. I've met him a couple of times, but I don't remember his name. But so I watch the odd one of those. I watch a bit of GCN. Sometimes I watch Casey Neistat. Sometimes I watch Peter McKinnon. He's really annoying now, though. He's really annoying. God almighty. Someone gave him a platform. Now he just won't shut up. But he thinks he's cool. He probably appeals to most 13-year-olds. I watch a bit of PewDiePie. He can be funny, sometimes really properly funny. So I'm fairly eclectic. I just can't click what's on the right side of the screen. When you're watching a video, you watch the thing, and then you look down the right side of the screen, you just click the next thing on, and it's fine. But I suppose the comedic influence, I love a good documentary. A lot of those documentaries, unfortunately, come from television and will never be made again. I love a good documentary, though. There's very little on YouTube that would keep my attention beyond 1 or 2 videos. GCN used to, because aforementioned things, but other than that, a lot of stuff doesn't keep any interest in me whatsoever. Is it important for children to be raised in a safe and nurturing environment? Not really. I don't think so. I think it's important for them to feel safe in certain situations. I think it's also important for children to be frightened every once in a while. And I mean frightened because they're doing something incredibly exciting, like swinging from a tree or cycling a bike beyond its limit or whatever it is. You know, it's important, those experiences, because you can't just continually wrap human beings into a way that it's too dangerous. Don't do that. That's too dangerous. Don't do that. It's always too dangerous to do everything. Because you just end up these people who never take a chance. And the human race would never be where it is now if we didn't always take chances. We didn't always climb a bloody hedge, run up to the top of a mountain, fall off a cliff, start parachuting. This all started. Look at the Wright brothers. We would never even be flying now if those guys weren't stupid enough to get into a paper airplane made of wood and jump off a cliff. Like, it just makes no sense to think that you can continually wrap kids up in a safe way, and then at some point in their life, they're supposed to take a chance. They'll be risk averse forever. Those people end up being traffic wombles and you know, people who clamp cars and stuff. They're the ones who are risk averse. So you kind of need to let the kids feel safe to come back to you and go, no, it's safe to do that. Go for it. Do it. Just do it. That's what you want. You want them to just go and do it. Get on a slide. Get on a roller coaster. These are all relatively safe things to do, but they feel very dangerous. But there are points where you just want to walk a tightrope, you know, and just encourage your kid to do whatever they want to do. That's what you want. Hi, guys. Jim, the bus driver, checking in. Come on, James. Hopefully you're not driving a bus currently while watching this, but you can listen in, I'm sure. Jared says, I'm paying for YouTube Premium, Bob. €15 a month and nearly worth it for background play, so I can listen to YouTube videos while driving and using other apps on the phone. That's fair play. There are a lot of people that have transferred over to YouTube Premium. I think if you were paying a number of services, so if you were Amazon Prime, YouTube Premium, Netflix, I think it would add up to a fair whack of cash, but it probably would still outweigh what you pay for a decent Sky service. You know, I think that's changing. I think that idea that you can get it all from one place is changing, and people want it from a number of different locations rather than getting it all from one location. Same with the news on television. You should always get 2 or 3 opinions on the news. You should never just take it. The 6-1 news on RT is not the be-all and end-all of news. They're opinionated like anyone else. That should always be backed up by something you read in the Irish Times, the Irish Independent, the Daily Star, whatever it is. One of those outlets will give you more information than you had before. And they're all different perspectives. Every journalist has a perspective. Every journalist has an opinion. And every journalist forces that opinion, even when they're told to just report. There's still an opinion part of it. So paying the premium on YouTube means you can watch, you can listen without watching. You can stream music, I think. No ads will be shown to you whatsoever. And you can just continuously stream the whole lot out of it. So it works really well, but you do have to pay for it. There's Powell has turned up. Thank you very much for joining us. Very kind. Don't forget you can support this channel on the links down below. So click a link, click on the PayPal icon, click on the Patreon icon, whatever you want to do, and submit whatever you can. The support is hugely welcome and very important. You can also do it through Super Chat right here on YouTube. That comes straight to me as well, which is also part of it. Just click the little dollar sign that's down the bottom there beside the smiley face. Just to correct you, RE, CO2 and cows is actually methane. While that causes more warming in the short term, 25% versus CO2, difference is methane only lasts 20 years in the atmosphere while CO2 builds up. This is true. But if you look at the offset of just not just cows, you look at the offset of the agricultural industry generally and their harvesting of water, their stockpiling of water, even through our drought here in Ireland that still continues, still a hosepipe ban. There's still farmers out there who are putting giant amount of water into keeping their cows from overheating and making sure they have something to drink all the time. So there's an element of it's the agricultural industry as well as just what cows are putting out in general. But yes, you're absolutely right. Methane will be the biggest offset of what any part of agriculture is doing. Bob, do you like Guinness beer? No, I don't really like beer. I know I would. I drink a pint of Guinness, but I wouldn't really drink that much Guinness now. I'd be much more of a wine drinker, to be honest with you. I like wine. I do like an odd craft beer here and there. Some of them are actually quite nice, but generally speaking, I would choose a red wine or a white wine with dinner, and I'd kind of stick with that then for the rest of the season. Very easy to end up drinking an entire bottle of wine. Not myself and the wife like drink an entire bottle of wine, easy peasy, but never during the week. We just on the weekend, one night, whatever. It's kind of like a bingey thing, but you do it at home in a sophisticated and safe way, so nobody really pushes you out as an alcoholic. Entry level up, Citigo Me 59 brake horsepower does well with it. Yeah, it's fine. I think they're okay. They're good little cars. I would have bought one a few years ago before electric cars. I'm still waiting for the VW Up electric, or the E-Up is what you want to call it. See, anyway, Steve Henry couldn't decide what he was going to say. So just basically deleted his message every single time. And one message got automatically held for review. Okay, well, obviously Steve is up to something there crazy. How she couldn't, Bob, says Cormac. About time. Where were you? Ever think about buying a classic? Yes, I was in a 78 Beetle the other day, and I desperately thought of buying something air-cooled because I love the sound, and I love working on them. They're upside down, but I love working. Very hard to change out spark plugs, but it's still a bit of crack. You knock a bit of crack out or something like that. There's a load of classic cars there. Anything classic, really. Anything old enough that smells like a classic is always going to be something that would be interesting to get used by you. All classics are good crack. Put it that way. Should I go for a new Volvo V60 with a T5 petrol engine? That's a nice car, actually, Volvo V60. The T5 petrol is a lovely engine. Just don't expect great fuel economy from any of them. I know they all make great promises, but realistically, they don't really deliver on those promises 99% of the time. V60 is a lovely car. I would prefer an XC60, but not with a T5. I prefer the XC60. I prefer the XC range that Volvo make, actually, rather than their car range. Bob, do you know that the best-selling car in Sweden is Volvo V90? How is it possible with 2,500 euro average net monthly salary? It's 20 salaries. Right. Sweden make a lot of money. Swedish people have a lot of money. I met a lovely journalist on the launch. What were we on? Oh, the MX-5 launch in Romania. A lovely Swedish journalist guy came walking up to get a selfie with me because he recognized me from YouTube, and he has a YouTube channel. So it was really cool. He was telling me all about salaries in Sweden. So I have absolutely no sympathy for them whatsoever. Their salaries are really high, and they make a bleeding fortune. As someone doing 50,000 kilometers a year in an EV, it's the distance of your journey that matters, not your overall mileage. I commuted to Port to Dublin for years, laughing at all of these. This is totally true. It's not your average mileage over the year that really matters so much as planning the single journeys or the individual journeys that you're going to do. Make sure that you've got a place to go that's going to have charging there and so on. It's not as straightforward. It's not a direct replacement. You won't jump out of a petrol car, diesel car, and into an electric car and just be able to work it 100%. There's a learning curve that goes with it, but once you've learned it, it's actually fairly straightforward to get it done and use electric cars on a daily basis. But you do have to make a mind shift to it. It's not a really direct replacement. John Blake says hello. Hello, John. Good to have you here. John with a J-O-N. Derek Meads, Bob, I'm owning a BMW Mercedes expensive RE servicing upkeep as opposed to owning a Ford Nissan. Yes, it is. Particularly BMW have been very critical over the years of the price of their service parts and servicing in general. Mercedes wouldn't be far behind them on the price of their servicing, but some of the older Mercedes can be serviced a lot easier, a lot simpler to get at. BMW tend to hide it all away and don't want you near the thing at all. It will cost a lot more for parts, even if you buy a fairly older BMW, Mercedes, or Audi, or whatever, and go to a local motor factors and buy the parts yourself. It's still going to cost you more than servicing a standard Nissan. But the flip side of that is you get better performance, you get better everything yourself. You know, the whole car is a generally higher spec and a better thing to enjoy and love for yourself as well. So there's the trade-off of that as well. And plus you've got your own brand outside the door that you want. So, God, a lot of you watching today. This is a really busy Sunday service. Maybe I should start at 1:30 from now on. Mo Kerry says, it's important for children to have a loving and supporting family. You've asked me that already. Yes, it is. Of course it is. That's the vital important. You give them the strength to do everything every day. That's how it works. You give them the confidence and the strength to get through the day without you. That's the best you can do. In the words of a comedian that I heard once upon a time, your sole job in life as a parent is to keep the child alive till the next day. That's it. Get them to bedtime. They go to bed, they go to sleep, they get up the next day, and then just keep them alive all day the next day. You provide them. Everything you do gives them the attitude to get through life without you every day. And your whole purpose in life is to get them to the point where they don't need you anymore. That's, if you can do that, you got it done. Powell has been absolutely hugely generous and gives us 10 Poland money, whatever that is. I don't know how much that is, but it's very generous. Thank you very much. You're very kind. You can do the same by Super Chat. You can also do it by PayPal or Patreon. Down below, there's some links down there. You can use them and fork over your money to support this channel. And every single penny absolutely generously counts towards this channel all the time. Without you guys, this channel would be long gone. That's just, I'm telling you now, without a shadow of a doubt, without the support and without the subscribers here, that we've reached 30,000 subscribers, without that subscription, without the support that you give by PayPal and Patreon, and without the sponsors coming on board and everything, this channel would be long gone long ago. So thank you all hugely for supporting the channel over all this time. Fly through the last few questions, now we're nearly there. Steve Henry wanted to fight everyone with his bottom skills, apparently. That's okay. We had a wild thing turn up, which always happens as well. We usually do. But I have Andy here, batting, he's the man doing the rear guard action for us, making sure we're not getting any weirdos on the channel. We don't really get that many, in fairness, and I really don't get that many nasty comments either, even in the YouTube comments, which I get like 1,000 comments a day now at this stage. So I don't really get that many nasty comments, and the odd one here and there. The E-Up is sold in the UK. We've had 2 imports into Ireland. One of the Hyundai Ioniq owner has an E-Up as well. God love us. Well done. Shame they wouldn't put it on sale here properly. Work has, where are we? I flicked forward there and that's not good. Work has been mad, Bob. Still here though. Command Cormaca. Well done. Good to have you. Bob, do you also have a problem with the size of hand luggage in Ryanair? They have smaller limits than the standard bag. Ryanair is just a pain in a hole. Just when you think you have them right, they charge for something else. Generally speaking, I find Ryanair staff don't really care as long. If you book priority boarding, they don't care what size your bag is. I know they say you're not supposed to have 2 bags in, you booked 2 bags in, but generally speaking, Ryanair staff don't give 2 fiddlers. They're looking out for the people who are on holidays, who are coming back with a handbag. They've got the other bag, they got another bag over the shoulder, got a bag in their back, and they're carrying along a trolley bag as well. If you're going to take advantage of them, they're going to take advantage of you. If you treat them like human beings, they'll usually treat you like human beings back. Aer Lingus is far too expensive, and the service has gone to the dogs these days. They're 99% of the time they're late for everything. I have not had an Aer Lingus flight this year take off on time. So you're stuck with Ryanair, unfortunately, unless you really shop around. If you want a $5.99 or a $32.99 or a $29.99 flight, you're going to have to fly to Ryanair. You're just going to have to obey their rules. That's it. If you stop booking the flights, they'll start paying attention to you. That's how it really, really works in the great world of travel. Unfortunately, I don't really get the decision 99% of the time to choose what flight I'm going or where I'm going. I'm on an Audi trip next Wednesday, and I couldn't tell you who I'm flying with. I don't know. And I don't really care. The most professional one that I've ever come across is Lufthansa. Generally speaking, those guys have been absolutely brilliant with me over the last few years. I've flown with them a number of times. They're expensive though, and their food is crap. I have to say, Lufthansa, I'm sorry, but the food you give out on the flight for free, as they say, is crap. But when you're hungry, you don't care. Where are we? Work will be mad, Jared. Jared, very interested to see the chat you E-Up to. I'd love to have a little go at E-Up. See, it was like Audi are a joke for service pricing in the UK. I'm out of warranty. If out of warranty, minor service, fixed price, £170. My God Almighty, stiff in warranty, 450 to 485. Shopping around, that's crazy. Service the bleeding car yourself, you wouldn't have half as many problems. What do you think of the culture of England? I don't know enough about the culture of England to comment on that, other than it's full of English people and they do what English people do every day. It's normal. Their Brexit is screwed, but the rest is good. Jared, you're very kind. Thank you very much. 549 has gone into the super chat system. You're very good. Thank you very much. That Steve bloke was a first nut job in months on here. I near fell off a chair. The mighty spanner. We don't get that many nutcases. We used to, though. I used to get people turning up asking me, was this mass and all? There was one woman came on, she was so disappointed. This is last year when we first started, and called it a Sunday service. Of course, I only think of car service. I never think of the Sunday service being like mass, you know. And she came on, she's from Texas, and she thought it was something to do. She thought it was something to do with some sort of preacher. She thought I was going to preach, you know. And when I didn't, then I started talking about clutches and gearboxes. It was very disappointing. She got so annoyed at me. It was funny. It was really good. Listen, we've come to the end of the Sunday service. We started a half an hour early, so we're coming to the end of it now. It's absolutely brilliant to have you here. Thank you very much. You've all been so massively generous today with your donations into the donation box of the Sunday service mass system. Of course, it's not mass. God almighty. It's going to be here again next week. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go over to check out our podcast page where this appears as a podcast within a few days. I am the only one doing this on I'm the only one here. It's not like I give this to somebody else to do. I do the podcast part as well. So I'll record a new little intro to podcasting and put up. There is a new one up there right now. There's one to come out, and then there's this one to come out after that. So I like to kind of run behind. Within the next couple of days, I will have the Volkswagen Beetle video out, saying farewell to the Beetle, full of Stephen O'Flaherty, Flaherty family in Ireland and all that, stuff that I was talking about. That will come out as well. If you ever feel the need to donate to a worthy cause, there is better than me, but I'd love it if you put some money towards us. You can click the links down below. You can submit by PayPal. BobFlav@thenextgear.com is my email address. I get hundreds of emails. I do try and answer every single one of them, but it's really hard to keep up with them all. And I do try and answer every single comment. So if you ever have a question, hit it. If you can use a hashtag Sunday Service, it'll be absolutely brilliant. It makes it easy to find them. You can follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, follow me wherever you can find Bob Flavin. I'm sure I'm there somewhere. There's another guy in the US as an artist. Don't follow him. But until the next time, I will see you on the far side.